Hey, welcome and join your blended family, all the B fams out there. We are doing a continuation
Part
of
two.
Part 2.
Oh gosh, I knew he was going to say it, guys.
Part
It
two.
always says Part 2.
Part 2
When we have a part 2.
of Stepkid's point of view.
Man, and last one was part 1 was so good.
It was good, and we are not going to disappoint on this one. We have some real good questions that we're going to continue asking Riley, who is now, she's our step.
Right.
It's like I'm fumbling over all this. She's a step kid.
Yeah.
She's a step kid. She's my biological daughter, but she's a step kid, but now an adult kid looking back at being a step kid that is just like on the other side of it.
Yes,
so
you are.
this is,
That is
we,
who I am.
we learned so much. And what we're saying is whenever we're parents and if we can hear this stuff, and especially if you're still in the middle of your step family, your kids are still living with you, golly, to be able to know what they're thinking, that is
It's like
key.
a time machine that you can go back in time
Yeah.
and hear what's going on. And do
So
things a little different.
we got that. We're going to continue. There's just a couple more questions we're going to ask her and get her point of view from. And then we have a powerful story that we had heard from a good friend of ours that just, it was like, oh, once we heard it, it's like, we got to share this.
Yeah.
This is like all blended families need to hear this. So it's that good. So listen, stay tuned because you are in for a treat.
All right, so we are back. We have a couple questions that we are going to just dig right in because we know you have such just insight in sharing your perspective. And so we're going to start out. I want to know, what are some like core memories? That's like a big thing right now. You know, we have all these words that we throw around like toxic, gaslighting, core memories. That is like one of those things. What is a core memory you have of when it really sucked to be in a step family? Besides when you say I locked you in the closet. Not closet, bedroom. I didn't lock you in the closet.
Bedroom, go back a few episodes.
Go back a few episodes where we talked about that. But a core memory when you were like, this sucks. Maybe you were crying. Maybe you were destroying things. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean.
Or did you even have a memory like that? Maybe everything was great and glorious.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely all
Sure,
rainbows and
that too.
butterflies.
Rainbows and butterflies. There we go.
Yeah.
End of podcast.
Oh, I'm trying to think of like a memory. I just remember like the beginning years always being like that. Like there was just always some kind of like, God, this is the worst. But I mean,
And it's okay if it involves me being mean or something.
And these are these are questions that you just saw. So you had no time to think on these.
yeah, it's totally
You had
can
no
be.
time, and this is just kind of one of those. Is there anything in your mind that sticks out just as us? Because we became a blended family when you were 8 years old.
Yeah.
And now you're almost 24. So you've been doing this a little while.
I've been in the game for a while.
You've been in
y'all.
the game for a little bit, for a minute. And you've been through so much. You even went from a point to where I had full custody of you for the majority of it. And then you left at the age of 15 to go live with your mom. And we went through some really tough years. A lot of disconnect between you and I and just, us and the family, to where almost 3 years we didn't have much communication, if any.
Yeah, we didn't. There was no communication at all.
And then...
But your girl can Facebook stalk like the best of them. Until she blocked them.
Yeah, that's why you got blocked.
and then you came back, we reconnected, and things have just been better than they have ever been. And so we've kind of been through a journey together. Does anything kind of stick out there that is just like, oof.
Well, when you lay it out like that, it's like, geez, where do I begin?
Yeah, you're getting slapped in the face with all these core memories.
I mean, I think my first memory was when you told me that y'all were getting married. I remember that being like super just mind-blowing for me because for 4 years, I guess it had just been me and you.
Yeah.
And so I got used to, always having you, and you were like my lifeline almost. Like I was always with you. And back then you had all the time in the world to invest in me, and I took that and ran with it.
I spoiled you is what I did.
Yeah, any stuffed
bit.
animal, any baseball game, we just, But
she would get like a T-shirt at every concert. We went to a game, like she would get like a souvenir and everything. When you've got multiple children, I've got to stop. Them things expensive.
Yeah, well, once we got married, all that stopped. It was like, I can't do that anymore.
When we go out to a restaurant and they're like, "You want any appetizers?" and we're at a Mexican restaurant, she does not even hesitate.
Give me some queso, please.
Queso.
I mean, but how do you not get queso at a restaurant? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you not? You have to enjoy the experience.
That is
It's
true.
true, but in my head, that's like, ooh, that's an extra $7 or something. But she know her daddy taking care of it.
And I thanked y'all for that.
You did.
You did.
Yeah, I did. But yeah, back on track. That memory comes into mind because, at first when I had met you, Charlotte, I just thought it was like, this is a little fling, Dad's got a little friend, and he's got some
Not
kids.
that he had any real flings before me.
Yeah, no, I didn't think it was as serious because I never took time to process like, oh, it's just a girlfriend or, like that. Never took, I was just like, oh, Dad's got a friend. She's got some kids. We hang out every now and then, whatever. But when Dad's, sat me down, I was like, I'm going to ask her to marry me. I said, no, you're not. Like, what do you mean? Like, there's no way. Does that mean she's going to live here with me and you? Like,
how's she going to fit in our bed?
I know. Yeah, how's she going to fit in our bed? Because at that time.
You were still sleeping in my bed.
Yeah. At that time, and.
There's not enough room, Dad.
And when those thunderstorms would come, and here would come Riley.
I don't like the rain. So yeah, it was very world changing. I think that was a core memory of like, and then as from my perspective, I was so used to getting spoiled and having all this time and like energy and eyes on me all the time that it really did kind of make it a shocker when that all had to be shared, and me seeing it as shared was it being taken away from me, and I didn't like that. I was so used to always having my dad's attention, and that really sucked for me when I realized. And I look back on it now, and like any moment that y'all two were just hanging out, or like y'all were in the room, or y'all were interacting together, I hated it. Like, I remember calling my mom several times and being like, well, they're hanging out again, or like they're doing this again, and da-da-da-da-da. And then, fuel to the fire. What was I doing, So, just out of spite, like doing that because I saw it as this time is being taken away from me, and this woman, this woman
coming in.
quote unquote wife that he wants to have.
Oh, she'd get real mad. She would say, "Your wife."
Did I really? Uh-huh. Oh, I did not remember that. Anyways.
Oh, she took it to heart. She was
remember.
She called me that. Well, it's okay. I'd always make excuses. And she didn't really mean it,
Yeah, so that was just like, a stab to the chest and twisting it around a couple times. Sorry, got very graphic there, but it was just like, like where do we go from here? It really changed. I feel like that's my core memory is, realizing like, oh, well, this is forever. Yeah. She's locked in now,
How about, there's probably 100 core memories as you talk about it, but as Randall was laying it out, the timeline and everything that happened, maybe sharing a moment when you were at your mom's, and that situation of not having your dad and the feelings that came, not necessarily about life at your mom's, but just the lack of having a relationship with your dad. Do you have any like moments where that really got you? Or
You talking about the 3 years she went on
during
hiatus?
the 3 years, her 3-year hiatus.
Oh, my 3-year
Okay.
hiatus.
When you lived with your mom and your relationship with your dad had been cut off, like what was
Been
really
broken,
going through your head during that time?
Well, honestly, I was a teenager, so I just had nothing but anger going through my head. But I didn't really, it affected me not having my dad. It affected me not having that relationship. It was like a piece of me that was broken almost, because my dad, he had full custody of me, my whole life. So he was that one person that I knew, was always going to be there. Now, not saying that my mom wasn't, but, he's just the one person I knew I could trust. And so not having that affected me, in a big way. I don't think as a teenager I really thought about that, because back then I thought, oh, well, now I have my mom, like now I get to have this time with my mom and all this kind of stuff, and not really thinking about the consequences until later on, when you tried to reach out and things like that, because it's so easy. Like, that situation was kind of special because I just cut you off completely, blocked on everything, no communication. And
like, even just taking that moment, like, was there a moment that you were like, oh, delete, block? Like, what was going through your head during that time where you were cutting things off?
Well, I mean, it happened after the whole incident of
the Thanksgiving blow up that we had.
Yeah, 2012 or 2015, whatever
Had come right after she moved for a visit, and then we decided, not to go into all the details, but we decided it was best for us to cancel her plane ticket and her not go back. And it turned into a really long night, a very emotional roller coaster, and in the end decided, okay, let's get her a plane ticket.
They were like, this child is crazy. We got to let her go.
We were so in a mess too. It was, we didn't know what to do.
Yeah, so that, we could talk about that just individually.
We should do a whole podcast on that, because that was like, wow.
That was big. Yeah, people are like, don't be leaving us on that cliffhanger. Tell me more.
If you want more on that one, let us know. We might do a podcast on that one.
Yeah, but that one, rocked me. So that after I got back from my mom's that time, I just cut y'all off completely. Yeah, seeing red. And then, on the other side, I had, those family members like, oh my gosh, baby, like, you're safe with us, so it was so conflicting. I didn't really even have my own opinion to form because I was so influenced by that side of my family at that time. So anything they said was like gold to me. Anything my mom had said to me as a child was always gold to me. I always valued it so highly. Any trinket she gave me, I always kept. Like, it was just, it's like something you've always longed for, but you can't have really as a kid. Yeah. So you take every precious memory and amplify it to where it got to a point to where I idolized my mom in such an unhealthy way. I almost kind of made her a superhero in my brain. Like, she was Wonder Woman. She was gonna save me and da-da-da-da-da. Which, as a human being, no one is ever perfect.
No one can do that.
So at that point in time, I still had that outlook on my mom. Like, she was, everything to me. Whatever she said went, all kinds of stuff. I was highly influenced by her. So I didn't really give my time to, or have my own perspective, have my own time to form my own perspective of how that affected me during that time of not having my dad. But I do remember when he did, we started to, because back then my dad, towards the end of our 3-year hiatus, started, he told me, he was like, look, I'm just going to call you every Sunday, whether you answer or not is up to you, but I want to have a relationship with you, so, I'm just going to call you at this time every Sunday. And I mean, there for a long time I didn't answer. There for a long time I would answer and just listen, like what does he have to say? It was kind of creepy. Like somebody, you answer and then it's static silence, and then I just hear my dad on the other side like, hello, Riley, if you can hear me, I love you. I'm just like, okay, But finally we did start talking, and then it all rushed in at one point. Like, I just remembered, like, oh my God, like, I have missed my dad. I really have, and I did miss our relationship so much. I valued our relationship, and the fact that you actually did want to have a relationship with me. So that all came flooding in at one point, and then it was like, oh, I miss my dad, let me just see him, So
all caved in.
Yeah.
So such powerful moment. I mean, we've been, I kind of share that timeline because, we have been through so much. We've seen so much. And, I just want every listener to hear, you're hearing this now, that we share our side, right? And there's always two sides to the story. But, what the thing with you is, and we see this in so many blended families, is that you spent the majority of your time here, and so you were lacking that time over there on your mom's side, and how devastating that was, for you and for her. She could probably, tell her side of the story and stuff, and how much hurt and struggles and pain that she was dealing with and that she was trying to go through because you weren't there all the time. Yeah. And so, just kind of being able to share this side, that whenever you're lacking that relationship, you don't have it as much. How you were saying, I started idolizing that relationship because I lacked it. So, that to me, just hearing that now is such an important part, in any child's life, that if they don't have that other parent as much involved in their life, at how powerful, they still need that relationship, right?
Yeah.
And, there still needs to, if you can find a healthy balance there, and if that relationship is just not able to happen, that you're able to help your child walk through that. Just knowing that, even if that parent is not, we've heard some situations where the other parent is just gone out of the picture altogether, or maybe that parent has deceased or something of that. And even in those situations, that child is still going to desire that relationship and miss it. And lack of better terms, they're hurting for that. They're hurting for that relationship. So really, as a parent, being able to help them navigate through that relationship.
Yeah, and just listening to the conversation, it takes me, you just talking about just that longing for what you have. It reminds me of a time when every once in a while, like, things would line up and we would be getting along, like, well with your ex, and her and I would have a conversation. I remember being on the phone with her, like, it was an hour or so long conversation, and her telling me how she was mourning the fact that she didn't have Riley. And I remember hearing her and probably even coming back and complaining to you, like, hello, like, why would you be mourning your child? She's still alive. Come on. Like, you're not understanding that loss that you feel not having it. But then when my two biological kids left and went to go live with their dad, it really was a mourning period, as if they were gone. And it took me to this moment, like, of course, why am I crying on all of this? But it took me experiencing that myself as a biological mom, because I had never experienced that. I had never been able to put myself in her shoes of what it was like not to have your kids 24/7. Because my kids, I also had full custody of. Sometimes it would go a year or so without them spending any time with their dad, and sometimes it was every other weekend. It depended on, like, what was going on in our situation, but I never really went without them for maybe more than 3 weeks. And so until the time period where they were gone, and I finally felt what your mom lived her life feeling, and it was just like, now I know what she meant. Like, it took me back to that moment of hearing her say those words and thinking, you're crazy, lady. Like, your kid's still alive. Why are you mourning someone that's still alive?
Yeah.
To feeling that myself and saying, no, this is a real grief of not having your kids in that moment. So I think that's key too, is just really being able to empathize with that other parent and what they're dealing with as well, and the child, and having these conversations.
Yeah, now that you say that, it's very similar from the kid's perspective. I mean, I feel like, for this situation in particular, my mom is so far away. Like, it's not like I can just be like, hey, can I go to mom's this weekend or something like that. Like, it's literally like I have to get on a plane and fly across, these states to go see her. So it wasn't that easy for me, and it was like I was mourning her almost because she wasn't there, and so that's a really great example there. So.
Yeah, no, that really, I mean, these are these aha moments that we have, but what that really, like, hearing all of this, it, to me as a parent now, it's like, man, if we can hear this and we can understand what we're all going through, and knowing that there are two sides to it, knowing that, even if you have full custody and the other parent doesn't, but to be able to put yourself in their shoes, and understand a little bit more of their perspective and where they're coming from, how much more does that make you want to be a better co-parent, and how much more, we can look back at all of our co-parenting and really beat ourselves up and say, I wish we would have done a better job.
Yeah.
Because there are so many things I can look back at myself and say, man, I missed the mark. I should have been better here. I should have communicated better with this. And, the truth is, none of us knew how to navigate through it. We were all hurting in our own areas, and ultimately you were hurting. You as the kid hurting through that, and that puts more, I guess, responsibility on us as parents, to where if we can handle the situations better, and we can, maybe sympathize a little bit more, or be willing to set our emotions, feelings aside, and help the transitions better and help work together better, how much more that could help you, as a child going through this, how much more it could help you mentally, in that time period.
But if we're not healthy ourselves, it's hard to do that. Like, I never thought I struggled with pride until I got to that point where I realized that my pride wouldn't allow for her mom to be an awesome mom too. Like, dang, why the tears keep coming? Or like for my kid's dad to be an awesome dad. Like, it couldn't, because if they were, I was less than, and I couldn't, my pride wouldn't let them be better, because then it meant I was not good enough. So until I was able to work on me and figure that out, to be like, it's okay, we can all be awesome.
Yeah.
And then the kids benefit from that. But when we're holding on to that and we see it as that competition and stuff, it's just, it just makes it hard for everybody.
Yeah,
it does. And the kids feel that, like, they feel that energy coming off of you. So it makes it even harder for them, because they just want to love everybody, but you can't, like, that's where that betrayal comes. Like, if you love one, then you're betraying the other. And I hear, like, my little brother saying that too now, and that stuck with me as well, because it's like, oh man, you don't have to feel that way. But in reality, coming back to, like, making sure that you're feeling validated in those feelings, because, I mean, and that's a key word. Add that to your vocabulary. Validated. Yeah. That always brings so much peace to me when I hear people say, like, your feelings are valid. Like, it's basically another way of saying, I hear you and I'm listening. Which is the biggest key factor for this type of situation, is just to maybe not have a solution yet, kind of like how we were talking about, but just making sure that you're the person that they can go to and talk to, and they know that you will listen and you will try as hard as you can to understand them and not come off in, a certain kind of,
dismissive.
Dismissive way, but just know, like, your feelings are so valid. Like, you have a reason to feel this way, and I understand, and it does suck, but we're in this together. Like, I'm not going to abandon you in this situation. Makes the child just feels that much even more accepted and loved, and because everybody just wants to be heard, everybody just wants to be validated and things like that. So having that instilled in a child from a little kid's age, it helps them also in their adult life too. So
I think that's one of the hardest things for us as parents is feeling like it's okay not to have an answer. Especially whenever we're parenting with our kids and everything, we feel like we're supposed to have an answer. Yeah. And if we don't have an answer, we're going to make up an answer. Yes. Because that's what we do.
Or let me fix it. Or you're the king of, what is it when you distract? Let me distract.
Yeah, distract, redirect.
Yeah.
But but that's such an important point that you bring up. It's like, how much power is it to where even as a parent, we can just listen and validate and just say, even if we disagree with your feelings, even if we sit there and we say, well, they shouldn't be feeling that way, but we don't tell you that because you do feel that way, and you do, and it's a legit feeling.
Or be willing to apologize in that I did not mean to make you feel that way. That was never, I think that we don't want to apologize as parents because then we feel like we're not good enough. We're throwing ourselves under the bus.
Yeah, that's the pride. That's the pride.
Yeah, and to say like, you know what? I messed up. I am sorry. I shouldn't have done that. But we like to validate ourselves and give you the reasons why we have to do the things we did and said the things we did and give all the excuses because we're too prideful to admit that we make mistakes too.
But the thing is, whenever we do that, we push our kids away. We push you away.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Instead of us, now you feel like you can't come to us and share your feelings because we just shut you down.
Yeah.
To where in reality, if we would just come and say, I hear you. What are you feeling about this? And then hug you and just say, listen, I love you, and I hear what you're feeling, and I'm here for you. We'll get through this together.
Yeah.
I guess that in itself is power, right?
Yeah, for sure. That holds the most weight. You know?
Oh man. Good stuff. So, okay, I got one more question, and then we're going to share a powerful story. But we're going to do that right after this break. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
All right. We'll be back in just a second.
Blended families can be hard at times, can't they? Have you ever said, I don't feel like me and my spouse are connecting? Or I'm bending over backwards and my stepkid still pushes me away? Or do you feel like your family's doing okay, but you'd like it to be more than okay? You want your family to level up, take it to an even stronger level.
The truth is, we're all looking for more joy and happiness in our lives. So how do we start seeing that in our blended family? Because really, our family is the first place we should truly be enjoying and having the most fun with. So how do you enjoy your blended family? You create more fun opportunities that your family loves doing. These are big things, they're small things that cost money, things that don't cost money. But the more fun you have together, the less blended family drama you'll have, which equals more joy and happiness for everyone. Now, you may be saying, yeah, but I don't know how to do that. I don't even know where to start. That's okay. We walk you through 5 fun dates you get to have with your family. These dates help you discover those fun things your family loves doing. You'll walk away with so many more great ideas and have an amazing, easy plan to make it happen and to keep it going. Plus, you get to have a lot of fun discovering all this in the process. We walk you through everything and make it really fun and easy.
So how do you enjoy your blended family? By going on these 5 dates and discovering fun in your stepfamily. You'll be so glad you did. Have more fun together and you'll see less problems. The link to get started on this amazing journey is in the show notes of this episode.
All right, so last question. And we're going to share a really powerful story. But what are some revelations that you've had being a young adult now and looking back? Looking back through your childhood, through our blended family, have you had any aha moments or anything that has just been kind of helped you in life or helped you mentally or anything?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think the one that I mentioned earlier with Riley and Devin is to have blended with them a lot better. When I was a kid, I was, a brat. Like, I was so mean to them. And I just look back on that and I'm like, golly, like, I wish, like, I feel like my separation with them in some instances, like, stems from how I treated them as a kid. So I wish I would have been more open to welcoming them in and realizing, like, hey, we're the same, like, we're going through the same ordeal, and accepted them quicker, and letting, not being so quick to react to if they were trying to have a relationship with my dad or something like that. I was so rude about that. I look back at that now with so much just regret. But
you were just jealous. I mean, you had your
I
dad.
was so jealous.
I was ripped away from you. So I mean, the way that you felt was valid, right? I just validated you. I'm practicing what we just learned. I validated your feelings.
You did. Thank you.
But they were, and yeah. So.
Yeah. So I think that. I wish I would have done that a little differently. And then also, I wish, like, our relationship could have been different. Mine and Charlotte's here. I wish we could have, even though the things that we went through and struggled with were, they make our relationship much stronger now, I feel like.
Yeah.
But I wish I would have, had the resources almost to be able to handle my emotions in a better way and not been so like, Dad, come get your wife. I can't stand her. Like things like that. I wish I could have done that a little better. Yeah. And then also understood, which, these are things that, as a kid, you don't think about it all, but wish I could have just been more open-minded and realized, like, my heart is big enough to accept everyone, and not being so influenced by my parents, the fear of my parents not accepting me, realizing that I myself and loved by both sides of the family, and I have a heart big enough to love everyone, that I won't be disappointing anyone by doing that, because then I would have been more quick to accept. I would have been like, oh, Dad's very cool, come over here to my dollhouse, things like that. But yeah,
it didn't ever make sense to me when I looked at statistically the amount of time that you spent with us in our household and the amount of time that you spent with Devin and Riley, why you wouldn't naturally accept them as your siblings. Like, there was always a step if there was even a thought. And to me, it didn't make sense that it's like you live the majority of your upbringing with these two kids in your house. And I know on your mom's side, like, because those are half siblings. And in y'all's world, they're not half at all. Like, you're just brother and sister.
Yeah,
like, there's no half about it.
No half.
But Devin and Riley were always step. Like, I'll say even for Christmas, when you said, oh, yeah, I bought all of my family Christmas gifts. And then when I was like, well, where's the other? And you're like, oh, I brought them down. And I'm like, well, what about Devin and Riley? And you're like, oh, I didn't think we were doing gifts. And then I hear that you bought for your other siblings, and that's considered, I bought all of my family gifts, but I'm like, they still are not, like, there's still just that, like, wall that's there, and it's just mind-blowing to me, and I just bring this up because it's, like, one of those thoughts I think in a blended family's mindset of, like, why wouldn't you spend all this time together?
Yeah.
We both had full custody of you, the three of y'all, for the majority of the time. And we tell the bad stories, and there were a lot of positive things mixed in with that. But just like we shared in another podcast, like, it takes 5 good memories to, to make up that one negative thing. It holds more weight. But it never truly, even now, doesn't make sense. Like, why would they not feel like more of a whole in that situation when you spent so much of your life with them?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a very good point, because even like now, like you're saying, even to this day, it's almost kind of like, like, is this, for me, the Christmas present thing was like, I know they're not gonna get me anything, so I'm not even gonna bother. But it's just like, I feel kind of like currently that I'm still an outsider to them. You know, like they're Riley and Devin are full siblings, and they're always going to have that bond, but I always feel like I'm not necessarily a part of that. You know, I don't know, and I haven't ever asked, which is probably something I should do this year, is communicate with them to be like, maybe reassure some of my fears, but sometimes I get in my head and overthink, like, you know, well, they don't really want to be a part of my life anyways, you know, or things like that. I guess that's kind of where I reflect now, is I think, like, if I wouldn't have been such a brat back then, maybe they could have, you know, established a strong relationship with me, to where now it's not so much as like, you know, do they like me? Do they not? You know, it's, you know.
So you kind of put that wall up and pushed them away to where y'all didn't really grow together. Y'all were growing apart. And so now it's like trying to figure out, okay, well, where does that stand now? Where are we at now? Since we really didn't, we didn't have that relationship per se growing up, because there was some division there. And I think that's a natural process that, you know, our kids can have in a blended family. We hear that a lot, to where they're just in their other rooms. They never come out and talk, and they just don't feel connected. And
go ahead. No, I think a lot now, currently in our season of life, is we all live different lifestyles, so we don't always really connect right off the bat over, you know, like, oh, let's come hang out with each other or things like that. We just all live different lifestyles, which, you know, it kind of affects me too, but yeah, that could be.
But I think even just watching the families merge together, we have the grandbaby now, which is Devin, so my sons, and you're such a great aunt, and you are also in a close relationship with her mom, like with his girlfriend, you know, like, so y'all talk a lot, so that's kind of like binding it in a way. And I know when Devin talks, he says my sisters, because poor boy don't have any brothers, he only has sisters, but he just says sisters. He doesn't say my whole sister, my stepsister, my foster sister, my half sister, because he has a little bit of all of it. But I do get what you're saying as far as like the different lifestyles. And then with our youngest, she's in that stage of still more friends is more important than hanging out with family. So finding those different ways to bond too. Yeah.
And then you had those 3 years as well, to where you were gone. You know, you weren't here. You know, so there was just all kinds of dynamics between, but now it's kind of where you're at. I think it all comes back to communicating, right? Is talking about these things and just kind of getting in a room and hashing it out and just, you know, reconnecting. And we look back as being, you know, the parents in the situation, saying we didn't create enough moments together. We didn't create enough family moments to where we could bond. You know, all of our vacations, we would store up vacations and try to make that bonding moments. But we would do that with the church, to where we, you know, instead of paying for a vacation where we'd all go connect, we did the summer camps and stuff, to where y'all weren't connecting. Y'all were with a, group of people. So we never really gave y'all a good opportunity, even on those new experiences, to come together. I think we had that one trip to San Antonio.
Which was like the first year we were married, and that's like the highlight of our 15 years.
We all bonded and loved and laughed together and stuff. And we look back saying, if we had created more moments like those, you know, how much stronger of a relationship could y'all have had, and maybe broken down some of those walls. So, you know, it's just full circle. It's all of us just looking back saying, man, we need to be intentional in our relationships to really keep us growing together and not growing apart. So, you know, kind of that whole BFAM movement that we talk about, you know, that's what this is about. But no, great stuff. Golly. I mean, we we keep talking and going on, but we want to share the story. And the story kind of comes from a good friend of ours. We talked with him, and he was cool that we shared this. I'd love to get him on the podcast one day and just hear his heart, because we'll just give a synopsis of the story. But Jimmy and his wife Lisa, just beautiful people, beautiful family there, and we've had the privilege to kind of have dinner with him, and he shared this story with us personally. And when we heard it, it's like, oh my goodness, this is such a powerful blended family story that we could all learn from and grow from.
You might need a tissue.
Yeah, so we'll do what we can best, and like I said, he did a Facebook post, and this is kind of what started it.
But maybe we can share the Facebook post in our group as our Facebook group.
Yeah, so he kind of put that on Facebook. So this is just kind of me giving a briefing of it. So forgive me if I don't get the whole story just 100%. Like I said, I'd love to get him on here and share more, but the message from it is still what's the power within it. And so anyways, Jimmy, he was at he'd been divorced for about 12 years now. And he's in, he was now married with his wife, and they've been married for a while, and they all have kids. And him and his ex-wife, they have kids together. And so time had gone by, and he was struggling a lot with just anger and resentment for his ex. Stuff he couldn't let go. He talked about times that he would let go of it for a little bit, but then he'd pick it back up.
Yeah.
And things we can do. As I'm saying this, we could probably all envision us and our ex-spouse that kind of the same story. And it was a men's retreat at church that he went to, and just connected there, and heard a few powerful messages that really God just started speaking and moving in his life to be able to move past the anger, to move past the resentment, to actually be able to forgive or allow himself just to receive healing from that. So often we can't in these situations, but God was just really working on him, and that was just something he was holding on to. Well, his oldest son was now getting married, and he talks about dreading that in a sense because he knew his ex-wife, and his ex-wife was married, and they'd been married for a while now, and so his kids had a stepdad in the picture, and he had no connection. He didn't want to have a connection. And, his family, his kids never really talked highly or anything of the stepdad.
They basically thought the stepdad was a jerk.
Yeah, and that's what was communicated to him. And so that in alone, you start forming negative thoughts against your ex's spouse that they're with. And so he was really dreading them coming together. But that night of the rehearsal dinner, they had overheard his ex-wife and spouse talking about maybe going out and grabbing some drinks or something after that. And so Jimmy, just after, God really working on his heart, had, he just kind of broke down, was being nice and courteous, and said, well, let me offered some places. Hey, you ought to try this place, that place, whatever. And so they kind of just talked a little bit and kind of connected. And then as he started walking away, he just felt God tugging on him, saying, no, go out with them. So, he turned around and said, what if me and Lisa come and join y'all? Would that be okay? And so they did. They went and they ended up talking live, talking just family, talking everything, really having a good time. And, it's one of those that once he let the walls down, moved past his own issues and own stuff and allowed God to really start healing him, that he was able to connect, and they had an amazing time. It was one that he never thought they would connect with. But so after that, then they kind of went back, their kids kind of laughing at them, saying, oh, our parents went out together, stuff kind of.
That never happened before.
Yeah, kind of doing a plug and everything there at them, a jab at them. And then it was maybe I think it was the next day or something, then his ex-wife's spouse, him and Jimmy just were outside. They met outside, started talking, and
this was during the wedding. They all four sat there together, he said, and it was just such a beautiful moment for them to sit there without that anger and bitterness. And then at the rehearsal dinner, he was able to actually connect with her husband, and they just had great conversation and just really connected. He just said that it was just this really special moment
that they had between the two, that he walked away saying, you know, I just feel a friendship, you know, really forming. I really like this guy. I feel like, you know, we connected on a different level. And so it's just a powerful, powerful story. Once he was able to forgive himself, forgive the situation, allow God to soften his heart and allow them to connect. And it was a week later, after all this had happened, that his daughter called crying hysterically that he had passed away. His ex-spouse had gotten into a motorcycle accident and he didn't make it. And how devastated his kids were from watching their stepfather pass and going through this tragic experience. And it affected Jimmy as well. Jimmy, you know, even when he tells the story now, he breaks up in tears. He just, you know, from that moment, from him letting his guard down and them being able to connect on that level. And, you know, he talks now about how he wished things had been different. He wished he could have done that sooner, what that relationship could have been like.
Well, and he talks about at the funeral, he was there and hearing all of these stories that his kids were sharing about their stepdad. And, you know, afterwards he was talking with his daughter and he was like, you know, I didn't know these things. I didn't know that he was a great guy. I didn't know that he did all these things. And, you know, why didn't you ever say anything? And she's basically like, we couldn't, Dad. Like, we couldn't tell you these things because we knew it hurt you. We knew it upset you for us to say good things about him. So we only told you the bad things about him. And it just broke his heart that he missed such an opportunity to connect with the stepdad because in his head, he was a jerk. Like, and why would he connect with them? But that wasn't his life. It was just the way that the stepdad was presented to him.
Well, and that, you know, it was a realization for him being a father of feeling like his kids couldn't come to him and share any good or share anything, that he had put that wall up to make them feel that way. And so they felt that they couldn't share. And so it was just so many aha moments that his family had. It was a tragic experience, a tragedy that came from it. But, you know, there were a lot of good things that came from it as well. But it's a story that, you know, as he shared and us thinking about our families and our blended families and our ex-spouses and maybe their significant others, is there any resentment that we're holding from? Is there anything that walls that we're putting up, even though we may not say it, that we're not allowing our kids to feel like they can come to us and share good things, not just coming and not being able to, but just sharing the negative stuff. And now we have this image of this person that's not even real. You know, we've built up this person to be something completely different. Are we playing a role in that? So, you know, it's just one of those stories that we can each take and personalize and say, all right, you know, we love taking things to God and saying, God, is there anything in my heart that I can change or that I can do different? Because we want our kids to feel fully like they can come to us and tell us anything. Yeah. You know, we don't ever want to shut that down or present that we are. And then is there any forgiveness or something that we can move past to allow a beautiful relationship or friendships that could be developed, that, you know, we're too prideful or we're you know, too unforgiving or something, that we're allowing that to be a block in our life or dividing point in our life?
I think of the people who were obviously praying over the situation, right? I don't know who or what or how, but for God to move in Jimmy's life like that at the men's retreat, for one, he had to be open to it. Sure. But God was just piercing his heart and softening it for this situation. You know, somebody was praying over that for it to play out the way it did. And it breaks my heart for it to fully play out. When he was telling us the story, you know, I thought, well, that's beautiful. And then he kept going with the story. And for the stepdad to have passed away, it was just like, and you want to focus on the negative even on that, but the beauty in that redemption in between. Yeah. And man, the things that would have happened had they not had those moments together with that. But the power of prayer is so real, guys. And if you're sitting here listening to this and you're like, yeah, that sounds great, that would never happen. That could never happen with my ex because they're this, they're that. When you begin to really pray, like, God, soften my heart towards this person. Let me see things the way they are. Let me experience what they're experiencing and see it from a different perspective. He is working. Yeah. And praying that over your ex-spouse, praying that over your current spouse's ex-spouse, praying it over your children, that God is just working in their hearts and opening it up and softening it towards each other in your blended family. God is working. And it may not be like for Jimmy, that all happened within a couple months' time from the time of the retreat to the funeral. But to get to this point where we're praying over the situation and knowing that it may not happen right away, but that God is working and He is faithful and you will see it. It may take longer than a month. For us, some of the redemption that came in our family 3 years later or 6 years later, 15 years in, where we really came full circle and really experienced some of the beautifulness of the blending. But just knowing that prayer is powerful and it works.
It really is. And, there is, it's one thing, Riley, you sharing your point of views and how much we can learn from that. And, that's just us, our prayer as a parent. We want to help our kids get through this and just being more observant and more listening and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the best way that we can help everyone kind of get through these tough times, and for you as a child to feel that you can belong to both homes and not feel like you have to act this way here and then you have to act that way there. But for us to be able to come alongside and say, no, you belong in both homes, and we want you to be you, and just really ease that tension and everything. But such good stuff. So Riley, we love it. Thank you so much for kind of sharing your heart in this. And it's such a treat for us to be able to hear just from our kids' point of view, kind of someone who's gone through this and who is now kind of on the other side and is able to look back and say, man, if things could have been this way, or, I was really thinking this then, for us as parents to hear that, man, just so good, so good. So listen, we love you and we thank you for tuning in, and we will see you on the next episode.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope this episode has been a blessing and encouraged your family journey.
Make sure you stay connected with us and join our weekly Blended Family newsletter. We send an email out every Friday morning full of support and encouragement.
And when you join, we also want to give you a free gift, so go get yours today. The link is in the show notes below.
Have an amazing day. Remember to enjoy the journey with your blended family, and we'll see you on the next episode.